Easy guys, welcome back to the lab for another regrettable experiment in Spore. In evolution, nature favors the mutations that survive. But what if it didn't? What if a species could take every adaptation? What if the answer to evolution was simply yes? What if I could fit every adaptation to a single creature, and how many vanilla parts could Spore handle before everything breaks? Spore usually prevents this with a complexity limit, but I'll be using the Dark Injection mod to remove the guardrails. Today, we break both the game and several laws of nature. Like every creature in Spore, we start in the cell stage. For this experiment, we begin as a carnivore, hunting prey, and ruining this carefully balanced ecosystem. At first, nothing could really touch us, but that wouldn't last. As our test subject grew, we had to start taking defense seriously. And right on schedule, Spore hands us our first part: spikes, right after a quick snack. Next, we needed a mate to evolve, but science demanded a quick combat test of our fledgling first. The data was worse than expected. We needed upgrades, but we found a mate. Excellent. No, she's been eaten, but not before we mated. Never fear, lab partners. In the world of arthropods, many males die shortly after reproduction. We simply turn the table on females instead. Side effects may include extinction. We added eyes, all of them. Then came the hardware: hammerhead spikes to maim prey, and tail spikes for anything brave enough to approach from behind. A filter mouth let us eat vegetables alongside our meat. Depressing, but science demands we are adaptable. Finally, our name: Omniformis. Despite our spikes being the largest they could be, other spiked predators could still be a problem. Spike met spike, just two animals having a normal silent argument about size, until we grew and the tables turned. Our genome demanded we assimilate more genetic material. We noticed a creature with a jet. We will add its biological distinctiveness to our own. Wait, come back. Return for science. We tried again. Success. Now all we had to do was find a mate in the tide pool. There they are. Wait. No. Why does this keep happening to me? It's like being ghosted on a dating app. Same sinking feeling, different digestive system. We would find a new lover. What just happened? We knew love, only for it to be taken away. Third time lucky. Finally. More spikes. And the jet wrapped around the rear spike, because our defense needed its own propulsion system. Or was it the other way around? Anyway, we only just hatched before the next upgrade appeared: cilia. Another input stored into the DNA: faster turns, more speed. But once again, we'd barely been alive 2 minutes before the next improvement: assimilate, adapt, repeat. This time, poison sacs. A tasteful addition to our growing list of poor decisions. I had one more adaptation on the shopping list: a proboscis. All I had to do was catch the right creature. We had a few opportunities, but our prey was fast. A worthy challenge, but we grew too quickly. By the time we finally caught one, Spore had turned the tables, and we were no longer eligible for the part. So the protocol changed. Find something bigger with a proboscis. And in the process, we accidentally acquired electricity, as if the ecosystem itself was running a promotion. With spikes, poison, and electricity combined, we were now a floating cell of immobilization and consumption. We prowled the tide pool for one remaining part: the proboscis. Then, in the chaos, we found a creature that fit the bill. We pursued immediately. It was fast, but we were faster. Eventually, our efforts paid off. We replaced our tail spike with a large feeding tube. Predators from the rear were now handled by suction. It wasn't long before we got to test the new defenses. An incoming predator drifted too close, pulled in, poisoned, shocked, and eaten. Our new hunting tactic was nothing. We simply floated and waited for food to come to us. It approached with confidence. It left its data. Our experiment had reached peak evolution. Having acquired every part in the cell stage, science demanded we move into the creature stage. We were offered 3 different limbs for walking, but why choose? We took all of them. The creature stage. Things were about to get more difficult. Omniformis took its first steps on land. Oddly terrible at turning, but fantastic at strafing. Once the locomotion model stabilized, we went to find some friends. And having every evolutionary part didn't just make us an effective predator, it made us popular. Most creatures couldn't help but be amazed, like a walking charity shop that played music, something for everyone. Also, singing was simply easier than fighting, and after dominating the tide pool, Omniformis had become comfortable. Hungry for yet more parts, we socialized until we grew smarter and unlocked the ability to lure another creature into our group. Soon it was ready to mate, and we moved into the editor. I extended the body to make room for more parts. We now had 4 mouths. At this point, I had no idea what the final creature would look like. I only knew one thing: making it look even slightly plausible was going to be a struggle. We added more eyes, ears, and items. Then came 3 new arm options. No choice required. We simply made room and took them all. And thanks to the Dark Injection mod, there was no complexity meter to stop us. I fit as many hands as possible, and as many weapons as I could onto the tail, using asymmetric, one-sided parts where possible to save on complexity. We had to be kind to Spore, or it would spit us back out. We were heading deep into uncharted territory. Finally, fins, leaves, and decorations went on the tail. The greater the assortment of oddities, the better our Omniformis chances of attracting a mate, like a peacock display. Our new parts afforded us many new abilities, all of them, in fact. After adding another Omniformis to our group, we set out to find even more parts. And already, our creature was starting to show the infamous colored mask, Spore shaders struggling to render what we'd done to it. The earlier game creatures were fascinated by our bouquet of biological oddities, and they were easily charmed. Even the ones that felt threatened at first were soothed by the Omniformis song. With 6 mouths, we could sing a bass line and a melody at the same time, a biological wonderment, and somehow socially acceptable. And for the ones who weren't convinced, our creature also had every combat part Spore could offer, which made negotiations straightforward. These interactions gave us more DNA, and as usual, we took all of it. Our creature was starting to look busy. I began saving regularly, aware that the experiment could collapse at any moment. Dance-offs were also getting harder, not because the other creatures got better, but because Spore's part roulette kept offering anything except limb parts. The things I wanted to attach feet to for improved dancing, which bluntly kneecapped our social edge. So we killed them instead. As we returned to the nest, our Omniformis stopped dead mid-cutscene, suddenly confused about its true identity. Crustacean, arthropod, mammal. We liberated the specimen from its existential prison and tackled the blue mass graphics issue, our first warning the system was failing. I turned down Spore's graphic settings, then carried on regardless. Dangerous epics roamed the continent, so we had to be careful. And there he was, the epic jaunty boy. Look at that walk, that bounce in his step. There's a man on a mission. This is why I don't make bipeds in Spore. More aggressive creatures turned up. We spat on one, marking it for the rest of the pack to engage, then followed up behind them. After finishing the deed, we ate our fill to replenish our health, collecting more parts, rinse and repeat. Back to the nest, we added more mouths. Our creature could hold 6 burgers in each hand, and had a mouth to eat each independently. We added more weapons to our arsenal, before heading out once more. The meteor shower marked the midpoint of the creature stage, but in the chaos we were spotted by the epic jaunty boy again. With all our upgrades, we outrun him. We were probably quite tasty with all the genetic variation we had. We started singling individuals out, then dancing with them. Without the rest of their nest joining in, they were easier to impress, and easier to acquire the genetic data we needed. We rinsed and repeated, attacking anything aggressive, befriending anything tolerant. We needed to be neither aggressive or friendly, as we could simply do everything, no specialization needed. Our species migrated to a new nest site, hungry for fresh pastures of genetic data to consume. That meant a quick journey to a new land. The hilly landscape, an easy commute for anything with wings. With fresh material to collect, Omniformis continued to add more and more parts. More mouths, more weapons, more plumage to the tail. Our bouquet of chaos. And every time we returned to Spore from the editor, the black loading screen took longer and longer. Which is never ominous. That hesitation, like it knew what was coming. Still, we pushed on. Every evolution made us better at dance-offs, better at combat, with every upgrade at our disposal. At last, we unlocked more limbs, and I tried to find any remaining space on the body to mount them, adding more legs, more arms, then eyes. The long, distinctive beak horn was the one exception to the vanilla-only rule. It came from the Creepy and Cute's part pack. I added it in a desperate attempt to give the creature some definition so it didn't look like noise. What do you think our Omniformis resembles? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. After applying some brighter coloring, we returned to the world. Except, we didn't. Our creature could no longer be rendered. We'd reached Spore's hard-coded complexity limit. The specimen was officially too much creature. Spore refused to acknowledge our work. I had only one option. We had to turn back. Maybe it was specific parts, maybe animated parts, maybe clipping. So I experimented. First, I only added the final tier of every single part. That worked. Now came the simple task of adding parts back until failure and seeing where we landed. Those legs were chaos. We headed back to the editor. We had every part unlocked now, so I started with the rest of the limbs. But the more limbs I added, the more problems appeared. As I tried to add more legs, parts started behaving like their vertices were being pulled by the wrong transform, stretched far away from the body like Spore had simply given up. We'd pushed the editor past what the creature rig was built to support. The experiment was collapsing around us, but we pushed on. What if I could cheat the part counter by chaining multiple legs onto the same limb? Designing a leg that looked grounded with this many joints was arduous, so I settled on something more arthropod, spiderish, only 4 legs, but with enough joints to use every single leg in vanilla. Bendy pipe cleaner legs complete. I moved on. Next was adding every carnivore mouth. This, surprisingly, went without a hitch. Then came the arms. I repeated the same trick, stacking as many arms as possible onto a single limb, but I only managed 6 of the 12 available before problems returned. That also capped the number of hands and feet, since they could only fit to the end of a limb. I'm not sure I can call this a win. This video should have stayed in my drafts, but here we are. Detail parts were comparatively cheap, so I added most of them to Omniformis and started layering weapons too. Periodically, I'd hatch back into the real world to see if the creature still rendered correctly, until eventually, it didn't. In the end, I had to remove several detail parts, eyes and noses, and half the weapons had to be left out. Hands and feet were also missing purely because animated limbs have limits. But we did fit all the legs and half the arms. And while we weren't able to use every part Spore had, the resulting creature was unsurprisingly statistically impressive. Bite, charge, strike and spit were all level 5. Health was level 5 too, making us highly proficient in combat. Sprint, jump, glide and sneak were also comparatively high. The only thing we lacked was level 5 sing because we didn't have the herbivore mouths. But dance, charm and pose were all level 5, making social interaction a breeze. The data was in, and it was worse than expected. Having every creature part in Spore gave us every evolutionary advantage, until it didn't. We learned another lesson today, mostly what not to do. And with that, goodbye.